Hello and welcome to Flock and Fern. In today's video I'm going to take you step by step through how to knit a traditional Christmas stocking. I'm going to use some super chunky or super bulky yarn and it's going to knit up really quick and make a really sweet and traditional Christmas present. So let's get started. So first things first, what you're going to need to knit your Christmas stocking. Some size 8mm straight needles. I'm using Knit Pro Zing needles today. You'll also need some super chunky yarn in colours of your choice. I'm going for traditional colours, so this off-white, this is James C. Brett Amazon Super Chunky, 100% acrylic. And I'm pairing that with a kind of Christmassy red colour. So that's the yarns I'm going to be doing today. You'll also need some scissors, a crochet hook, although this is optional, a darning needle, a pencil, a pen, or a row counter, and a stitch marker, or a scrap piece of yarn so you can keep track. So before we get started, if you're new to the channel, here at Flock and Fern, we do video tutorials on how to knit different projects, and I take you step by step through how to make various items and garments. So please hit the subscribe button, and if you hit that little bell icon, you'll get a notification every time we post something new. Thanks so much, and let's get knitting. So first things first, we are going to cast on to our needle. I'm going to use the long tail thumb method. So taking up the yarn colour that you'd like to be the cuff of the stocking, I'm going to use the cream colour or off-white colour. And I'm going to cast on 16 stitches. So to begin, I'm going to do a slip knot, where I'm going to take up the yarn, drape it over two fingers on my right hand, put the yarn tail to the back, bring it to the front, cross them over, and then turn my fingers to face me, pick up that tail end and scoop it under the loop across the back of my fingers, pull that out, and then I'm going to slide my needle into this loop here, like so, and then just pull on both the tail and the ball end of the yarn to secure. If you need any help on casting on using the thumbtail method, then check out the video that is on your screen now. So that is our first stitch on the needle, and we need another 15 to make our 16 cast on stitches. I'm going to take up the ball end of the yarn with my left hand and put my thumb in the air like I'm giving somebody a thumbs up. I'm going to scoop my thumb round that ball end, pick it up and create a loop around my thumb. Where that triangle is at the base of my thumb, I'm going to put the needle into the base there, pick up the tail end and wrap it around the back of the needle to the front, and then bring my thumb up and bring the yarn with it over and off. And I'm going to do that again. So thumb up, wrap the yarn round, create that triangle at the base, slide it under, take up the tail end, wrap it around the back as if to knit, in between the two, up, over and off. So I've now got 3, and so I'm just going to continue like that. And I'm just going to count along to make sure I've got 16. 16, perfect. And then I'm going to switch the needle with the cast on stitches into my left hand and take up the empty needle with my right. And now what I'm going to do is moss stitch across the entire row. So that's alternate knit and purl stitches right the way along. And I'm going to start with a knit stitch. So my needle goes into the base, cross over the two, wrap the ball end of the yarn round, in between the two needles, and take the left needle up over the tip and then slide it off. And now I'm going to purl the next one. So bring that working yarn to the front, the right needle goes into the base of the front, the stitch, and then wrap that up in between the two and slide it to the back. And then another knit stitch, and then purl again, knit, and purl all the way across those 16 stitches. And then last stitch in, we're going to purl that one. And then we're going to switch our needles over again, so that full needle goes into the left and the empty needle into the right. And now, because we're doing moss stitch, we're going to alternate. So this first stitch, which if it was rib would be a knit, is going to be a purl to create that nice moss stitch effect. And then I'm going to knit the next stitch and just continue alternating between the purls and knits to the end of the row. If you are struggling which one to do, because we're alternating it, if it looks like a V at the bottom and straight like that, that means you need to purl into it, because that's a knit stitch. And if it's got like a little bubble at the bottom, like this one, that's a purl stitch, so we're going to knit into that one. And then work our way along. And then get into the end here. And we're going to knit this last stitch. So, there we go, we've got 2 rows of moss stitch. And we'll switch our needles around again. And what we're going to do is continue working in moss stitch for 56 rows. That's 56 rows. So I will keep on going and I will catch you back up once we've got to the end of our 56 rows. Okay, so we are at the end of, well, we're getting to the end of row 56 of our moss stitch. So this is going to form the cuff of the stocking, and then we are going to do something a bit new that we haven't done on a project on the channel so far. So I'm just getting to the end of this bit first and then I'll explain the next bit. Okay, last stitch, there we go. Right, so now what we're going to do is, now that we've got our 56 stitches, 56 rows, sorry, on there for our cuff, we are going to cast off all these stitches knitwise, but leaving the very last stitch on the needle. So if you need any help casting off or how to bind off, click the link that is on your screen now, which will take you through step by step how to cast off. And then we're almost at the end. Last one. There we go. Right, so we're going to leave that stitch on. Now what we're going to do is pick up and knit 29 stitches along the long edge of our work. So we're almost pivoting it. So we've gone from doing it upright with 16 stitches but shorter rows, and we're pivoting it onto its side, and we're now going to pick up and knit 29 stitches along this edge. Now this might be a completely new technique to you, so I'm going to try and show you exactly how to do it. So we've already got this last cast on stitch on our needle, we're going to leave that there, and then we're going to pick up and knit 29. Now to make this a bit easier, what I'm going to do is fold this cuff in half along the long edge, just line that up, and then where it folds in the middle, I'm going to place a stitch marker. This is just to make my life a bit easier, so I know I've got 14 stitches to do along here and then 15 along the next to make our 29, so we've got 30 in total. So I'm just going to slide that in at the halfway point, clip in place. So now between this stitch that's on the needle and this stitch marker, I know I need to pick up and knit 14 stitches. So with our needle that's in our right hand, we're going to, and with our left hand, we're going to just like pull the edge away and see what gaps form. So if I like grab the end of this purl stitch, you can kind of see that we get nice kind of circles appearing here. So what I'm going to do is, as I tug on that bit, pick up the right tip of the needle and I'm going to put it in that hole that's forming where that purl stitch was. So it's going to go in to the hole like so. I'm then going to take up the ball end of the yarn, which is still attached because we left that last cast on stitch there, and I'm going to wrap that round the needle as if to knit. Now I'm going to use the garment and my left hand as if it was a needle, and I'm going to pull the garment up, over and off that stitch. So that has literally picked up a stitch and knitted it. So that is how that's how I do it. And then I'm just going to keep going like that until we've got 14 up to this stitch marker. So in total there'll be 15 because we've got that remaining stitch on there. So I'm just going to pull at my piece, see where that hole is, and put the right tip in. The ball end of the yarn, wrap it round the back as if to knit. Pull the garment up, over and off, and then we've picked up another stitch. And just keep working like that as you go along. So find that gap. It round, up, over and off. And then same again. And just keep working like that until you've got the desired amount. Now, if at any point you think you've bunched up a few or you're not happy with how they're sitting, just pull them out and do it again until you are happy. So always check where you're at, how many stitches you've got and how many you've got to go, so you're not having it an uneven spread. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 7, so I've got 7 more to fit in there. I think that looks okay. And then we're at the stitch marker. I'm just going to fit one more in there. Okay. Now I'm going to move my stitch marker onto that last stitch, because it saves me having to count them all again once I pick up and knit the next 15. So I'm just going to check how many stitches we actually have on the needle now. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Perfect. So that was the last cast on stitch plus 14 pick up and knit. Now between here and the end we need to pick up and knit another 15 stitches. So we're just going to continue with that technique we've just gone through into the next stitch. And then with the last one, you just want to make sure it's going into that very end row, which was our cast on. And we're now going to just check that we've got 30 stitches in total along the needle. 30, perfect. And we can remove that stitch marker now. Okay, so that is us finished the cuff, and we're now going to start doing the leg part of the stocking. And what we're going to do next is cut off the off-white yarn and change to the main colour yarn that you want to use. So I'm going to change to my Christmas red. Okay, so we are going to join our red yarn. I'm going to do that by inserting my needle purlwise into that first stitch, hooping the yarn over, clasping it on there, holding the tail end of the cream yarn and slide it off. And then I'm going to use both strands, the tail and the ball end, to purl the next stitch. And I'm going to do that twice more. And that just secures that in place. So I can just drop the tail end now and continue working on the ball end of the yarn. And I'm going to purl right the way along that row. The reason I'm starting here with a purl stitch is because we've done our pick up and knit. So this is the wrong side of the stocking, so what will be the inside. Almost at the end. So this is purling along the 30 stitches that we've just picked up and knitted. There we go. And then we're going to switch our needles round. What we're going to do now is knit right across that row. And do you remember those stitches that we did at the start of that row to change the yarn colour? Well, when we get to them, they were doubled over, but we just knit them like normal stitches. Okay, so here's one of the first ones. So we're just going to go into both of those strands, knit it, same again, and again, and that's us at the end of the row. And if you've got a bit of slippage, you can just pull the ends there to neaten it up. Switch them around, and now we are going back to a purl stitch, and we're going to work 25 more rows of stocking stitch, so there'll be 27 rows in total. So continue like that, and I'll catch you back at row 27. Okay, so we've got to the end of row 27 of our stocking stitch, and so we're now starting to form the kind of leg part of the stocking. So because we started at top, we're doing it top down. The idea is that the cuff will fold over like so, and then this bit will be folded in half and sewn up the back. So now what we need to do is start to shape the actual the foot part of the stocking. So what we're going to do is on this row, we're going to knit along, oh, just dropped a stitch. We're going to knit along 20, and then we're going to turn and then work back on 10 stitches in the middle. So I'll show you what I mean. So knit the first 20 stitches. Okay, 20, should be 10 left. 10 and then 20 on here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 18, 20. Perfect. So now leave those 10 on the needle unstitched. Don't do anything with them. And we're going to flip it, so turn it round. And now what we're going to do is purl 10 of these, like so. Just double check that was 10. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Perfect. So now we've kind of divvied it up into 3. So we've got 10 stitches down here, which we're just going to ignore for the time being. We've got 10 stitches on here, which we're also going to ignore. And what we're going to work on now is these 10 stitches in the middle, which we've just purled. So we're going to turn our needles around again so that we are right side facing. And we're going to knit across these 10. And you can see a little gap starting to appear between the 10 that we're working on and the 10 that are remaining on the needle. So it gets easier as you go along. So we're going to work 12 more rows of stocking stitch on here. Okay, so now I'm on the last row of stocking stitch for this instep bit. So what we're going to do now is along this edge that we've just created is pick up and knit 7 stitches, and then we're going to continue to knit along the 10 on our left hand needle. So similar to what we did before with the cuff, we're just going to find the kind of gaps in that edge and put our right tip in there and knit. So I'm going to miss this first bit because it's still working, and then I'm going to go into this one here and knit round. So that's 1, same again, 2, I'm gonna miss one again, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so we've picked up and knit those 7, and now we're going to knit along the 10 that we left on our left hand needle. Okay, and turn. And now we're going to purl 17, and on the 17th we're going to make a stitch. And this is the 17th. So what we're going to do in order to make one, we're going to purl it like normal. But before we slide that stitch off, we're going to take the right needle and find that loop there at the back and go back in and purl it again. And that's us purled one and made one. We're then going to purl 9, and on the 10th we're going to make another stitch. So on this one, purl, and then in, purl, and make one. Okay, so now we're back to our edge from the section that we made as the instep, and we're going to again pick up and purl 7 stitches along here. So similar to before, I'm going to find that gap, insert the right needle from back to front, purl it round and back, in, purl round and back. It's 3, just check where we are. Last one, 7, and then we're going to purl along the 10 remaining stitches that are on our left needle. Okay, so now all we need to do, so we've got that nice toe shape coming through, is work another 6 rows stocking stitch, starting with a knit row. Okay, so that's us done those 6 rows stocking stitch. So now what we're going to do is knit 3 and then knit 2 together and then knit all the way to the last 5 stitches on the needle. Okay, so we've got 5 stitches left on the left hand needle. We're going to knit 2 together again and then knit the last 3. Switch our hands round and we're going to just purl every stitch in this next row. And what we're going to do on this knit row is the exact same again with the decrease. So 1, 2, 3, then knit 2 together, knit to the last 5 stitches, then we'll knit 2 together and knit the last 3. Now we're on to the last 5, we're going to knit those 2 together and knit 1, 2, 3, switch round, and we're going to purl all the way to the end of this row again. And get to the end of that purl row. And that's us in that was the last row for the instep. We're now going to start the sole of the stocking. So on this row, what we're going to do is knit 3 again, knit 2 together, then we're going to knit 12 and knit 2 together, then knit 4, and 2 together, then knit another 12, and then on the last 5 we're going to knit those 2 together and knit 3, switch round, and we're going to purl right the way along. So we're still working in our stocking stitch. Okay, now we're on to our next decrease row for our sole. I'm joining a new ball of yarn, so I'm going to be doubling up again. But I'm going to first of all knit 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to do 2 together, drop my tail end and continue working with the ball end, and do another 12 stitches. Oh no, sorry, 10 stitches. 1, 2, and then 4, and knit 2 together, and then 10, and 2 together, and then the last 3. And then we're going to purl all the way along again. And then we're going to work another decrease row for our soles. So same again, we're going to knit 3, knit 2 together, then we're going to knit 8, knit 2 together, knit 4, 2 together, knit another 8, 2 together again, and the last 3. And you're probably glad to hear it. Now we're on our last row for our sole, and again we're just going to purl right the way along. Now what I'm going to do is cut the yarn off, leaving a wee bit of a tail, and I'm just going to let that dangle down. Now what we're going to do is a bit of a cast off method that we haven't done yet on the channel, and this is called Kitchener stitch to cast off. And the first thing we'll have to do is, we've got 30 stitches on the needle just now, is we need to divide that between the two needles. So we're going to have 15 stitches on each one. So to do that, I'm just going to pick them up kind of like purlwise, and slide them onto this stitch, this needle. So we're going to have 15 on each. 15, perfect. So now what we're going to do is bring both needles together like so, so that it kind of starts to bring the stocking together in itself. I'm going to place those down for a sec whilst I get a long length of our red yarn. So this length of yarn needs to be long enough to wrap around that piece of work maybe 4 or 5 times. And I'm going to thread it onto my darning needle. And make a little knot in the end. So we're using it like a piece of thread. And now starts the Kitchener cast off. So to start off with, you have to kind of prepare for this. What I'm going to do is, with this front stitch, you have to have them paired up equally. This will all make sense as the way in which it casts off each of the stitches. And we need to prepare first. Okay, so what we're going to do first is, with the darning needle, we are going to put it into that first stitch that's facing us, purlwise, so like so, and pull it through so that it catches on that little knot that you put in the end. And then we're just leaving that on there. I'm going to take the darning needle again, and we're going to put it knitwise into the first stitch on the back needle. So make sure that goes through. And again, leave that on. Then we're coming back to our front needle, and we're going to put the darning needle into that stitch again, knitwise. This time, we're going to slide it off the needle. And then we're going to go back into this front one, the second stitch that's on there, which is now the first, purlwise again. Then we're going to pay our attention back to the back needle, and we're going to slide the darning needle in purlwise to that one. And this one's coming off. Then on this stitch, we're going knitwise and leaving it on. Then back to the front again. It's going knitwise into the bottom. And that's sliding off. And into the next stitch purlwise. And into the back needle purlwise. And off. And then into the second one knitwise and on. Front needle again, knitwise and off. And just keep working like that right the way till you've gone through all of the stitches. And that's your Kitchener bind off, or Kitchener stitch. And you can just see how great a finish that Kitchener stitch gives you. Is pretty much seamless. You can't see where it is. And it's really strong as well, which is perfect for the sole of something. So that is us finished the sole of our stocking. And now all that's left is to sew up. And I promise this is really simple. So we can put our knit needles aside because we're done with them for now. And we have our darning needle still with some yarn on from our Kitchener stitch. And what we're going to do is just start to lay it all out. And all we need to do now is sew right up the back seam all the way up to the top. Okay, so I'm going to sew this right up the back using mattress stitch. So with my darning needle still attached to the Kitchener stitch, I'm just going to find the loop in the V there, slide that under, and same on this side, and just work right the way up. And that will give us hopefully a nice neat sewn up seam along the back. Okay, so I'm just going to, I've finished sewing it up. I'm just going to weave in my loose ends. And all that is left to do now is for us to fold back the cuff like so and attach a little loop for us to be able to hang the stocking up. Now this is totally optional. If you want to use one of the tail ends and just create a loop out of that, then please feel free to do so. But what I'm going to do is a little crochet chain. So I'm going to do this using just the first crochet hook that I found. It's not the right size for the yarn at all. It's 5mm. So if you've got one that's 8 or plus, then that's absolutely fine. But I figured that this will create quite a tight chain, which will be good for providing strength for hanging it anyway. So I'm going to start the chain by making a slip knot. Put that into the crochet hook and tighten up the ends. And I'm then going to take up the yarn in my left hand and hook that working end through the slip knot, slide it off, and I'm just going to continue, hook, slide through, creating that simple crochet chain until it's about 12 centimeters long. And I think we're there. Test the length, just fold it back on itself and see if that's about where you want it to be. And I think that's good for what I'm wanting. So I'm now going to cut off the end and get my darning needle and weave that through the last stitch. So there is our crochet chain. I'm going to double that over, and that's going to form our loop which will hold our stocking up. So now I'm going to slide both tail ends into the darning needle, get my stocking and decide where I kind of want this loop to go. And I think about here would be good. And I'm going to do a double knot to secure it. 1, 2, and then I'm just going to weave in those ends. And that's our loop, crochet chain loop attached to the stocking, ready for it to be hung up. And there you go, a traditional Christmas stocking. Thanks so much for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. The pattern's available at the link below, and we really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon and you'll get a notification every time we post a new video. Thanks so much for watching. Happy knitting!